All right, welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall. Let's talk about something I haven't talked about in a while here on the program, cryptocurrency. Late last year, we were watching as the price of Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies was booming, and lately, it's been a bit of the opposite. The price of Bitcoin is floating around $85,000 right now, which is its lowest level since November. This comes as the FBI says there was a record-breaking theft of $1.5 billion worth of digital currency from a Dubai-based crypto exchange. North Korea appears to be responsible for that, according to the FBI. Let's discuss with David Siemer. He's the CEO of Wave Digital Assets. David, thanks for coming on. Should investors be worried about this price dip?
A little bit, but not too much. I mean, there's a lot of volatility around crypto always. Whenever there's any kind of macroeconomic uncertainty, we always see crypto swoon. Crypto investors are kind of predictably irrational. When there's a small swoon in the markets, we see a huge swoon in crypto. And there are some knock-on effects. The hack was one of them that was, kind of unfortunate. It was the largest one in crypto history. It has been solved. That exchange has already repurchased all the Ethereum they lost, so no one actually lost any value. No retail was damaged. But there's, and also there's been a lot of exuberance around when Trump was coming into office, this administration, just how many positive things might happen. And a lot of them have happened, but not all of them have happened yet. It's only been 5 weeks. But there was kind of a hope that we'd already have the digital asset reserve. We'd already have a lot of these other kind of things that were talked about during the run-up.
So there's already so much discussion about Bitcoin's legitimacy as an actual currency or store of value. Does the recent North Korea hack spook investors and contribute to price slips like what we're seeing this week?
I think a little bit. It's just kind of daunting to see a relatively big number. I mean, 1.5 billion is a pretty big number. There were other things that happened the last few weeks I think were worse. There's been this huge rise in the last 9 months of meme coins. And very publicly, the president of Argentina kind of sponsored one, went to 5 billion, and then said it wasn't his, and it went to zero, and it wiped out hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think actions like that actually were much more damaging. It kind of makes the whole industry look much less serious, even though a lot of us are very serious. But so the hack alone was not great. I think there were a lot of other factors recently that were probably worse.
So, yeah, I got to ask you a little bit more about not only what we've been seeing internationally, but domestically here. The Trump administration is a pro-crypto administration. In fact, Bitcoin was at an all-time high after he was elected. There was a lot of hype at that time. Has the hype died down? How important is hype in the calculus to determining how valuable Bitcoin and other cryptos are?
We're seeing a lot of institutionals come into the asset class, obviously with BlackRock and Fidelity and a lot of others, but it's very much still a retail industry. In the broader stock market, I think like 94% of equities are largely held by large institutions. In crypto, that number is like 5%. So you get a lot more of the kind of the whims of the street and hype and whatnot than you see in more traditional assets. And that is slowly changing, but right now, that's kind of where we are. So whenever there's a small issue, and I think people in this space got a little bit irrationally exuberant of how much Trump will be able to do so quickly. It's been 5 weeks. He's done a lot. The SEC was a huge challenge on industry for years. They rescinded, I think 4 or 5 different lawsuits. A tremendous amount of progress has been made. The Pro-Crypto Council is coming. I do think the Digital Asset Reserve will happen. I think very, very highly likely it will happen. But it all takes a little bit of time. And in crypto, people are kind of famously impatient.
Yeah, let's touch on that. There's been a lot of discussion about the possibility of a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the U.S. It would be similar if people want to think about it this way. We, of course, have a reserve of gold. A lot of people associate that with Fort Knox. Has there been any movement to create something similar for crypto? As you mentioned, there's been a lot of discussion about this, but is that getting any closer to reality?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion still at the highest levels of government. So it is still, I think it will happen. I think it'll very likely happen at the federal level. It'll almost certainly happen at the state level. There's 17 states proposing their own digital asset reserves. There's also about 15 countries that are, in a sense, trying to front run the US government by doing it. So the theory is if the US government launches this big reserve and it's a lot of money, that would be huge for asset prices. If you're a smaller country and you can get in front of that, you'll have a nice financial return. So we're seeing that out of everywhere from UAE, Singapore, Russia. A ton of countries are looking at doing the same thing. So I don't know how fast it will happen here. This a bit of bureaucracy here too. But I think it will happen a lot faster in a lot of countries that don't have bureaucracy, where they have kind of easier decision making much quicker.
Is there an argument to be made that crypto is too volatile to be in a strategic reserve?
Volatility is good and bad in some ways. I mean, most of crypto volatility has been upside volatility, which no one really complains about. People complain a lot about downside volatility. I think it's far too important of an asset for the government to miss out on, and for sovereign wealth funds to miss out on, and whatnot. I mean, it's a huge asset. It's going to be a really huge asset over time. I'm kind of basing my financial life around it, so I'm obviously a believer. So no, I think it makes all the sense in the world for the government to do it.
All right, David Siemer is the CEO of Wave Digital Assets. Thanks for coming on.